Should we be concerned about this upcoming Auburn football season?
Well, Zach, I actually just finished crushing some chicken parm, and I am freaking ready to rock and roll.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy War Rapport Wednesday to all who celebrate, as we are joined by Mike G of the War Rapport, and I gave Mike some homework. On today's show, we both will share a list that we made about 5 reasons to be concerned for this upcoming Auburn football season. We'll go in order. We'll start 1, our most concerning reason, and we'll trail off to 5, and we'll wrap things up with our big picture takeaways from our list. But Mike G, my first one is Auburn's schedule is absolutely brutal. No matter what kind of metric you look at, some folks rank it as the hardest schedule in college football. Some folks rank it as, I've seen as low as 3, depending on, if you want to look at projected wins or wins from a season ago. It's tough. No matter how you slice it, it is tough. And it's just gotten even tougher with some of the bottom dwellers of the SEC West taking a step forward, like Arkansas, like Ole Miss, like Mississippi State. Kind of question marks around LSU, but people still respect them. So, I mean, when you just look at this roster or this schedule, it's absolutely brutal for the Tigers.
Yeah, 5 straight home games to start the season is great for this schedule, because after that, it is an absolute gauntlet. You're at Georgia, you're at Ole Miss, you come home for Arkansas, you're at Mississippi State, you got Texas A&M, you got one cupcake in Western Kentucky before you play Alabama. The back half of that schedule is an absolute murderer's row.
It's a gauntlet. It's a gauntlet.
So,
and Mike G, an aspect that is super interesting to talk about, and we talked about this for months last season, and I'm sure as the offseason evolves and we look more in depth at the schedule, it'll come up over the next month or so. But that Penn State game, like it was a year ago, I mean, it's got such an influence on the rest of the season, potentially. I mean, if Auburn wins that at home, it'll probably be a late Saturday night game. It'll be exciting. It'll be electric. You get some positive momentum going forward. And if you lose it, I mean, it could be the opposite of that. And so I think that's going to be a big, big game for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I agree, Zach. You win that game, and there's a real possibility that Auburn could go 5-0 to start the season. Right. And then over the back half of the season, I kind of called out that schedule. You find out what kind of team they really are. But having that positive momentum is going to be super important. So I agree with you on that one. Number 1 on my list is who is going to be the quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't, realistically speaking, your number 1 and my number 1 kind of go together. The schedule is hard, so you're going to need a good captain at the helm to get a leader, right? Yeah, to get you through that gauntlet. And who they decide to pick to lead the charge is going to be critical, and whether that person is ready and to take over the job and get us there is going to be super important. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of this summer battle. We did not see Zach Calzada. Right. I did get some reports that he is firmly in the mix, working his ass off right now to win the job.
Mike G, I think he practiced more in spring than they want us to know. I mean, talking to some of the players, a few of them flat out said, like, yeah, he's in 11 on 11 right now. He looks good. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that's encouraging. So I don't think he was just sitting on the sideline watching as much as we think he was.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you're looking at that and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I've got Zach Calzada. I've got TJ Finley, who knows the system. I've got Robbie Ashford, who I personally think no matter who wins the job, there's going to be a package for Robbie Ashford.
You think so?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a package for Robbie Ashford, a situational package to be able to use him. He's too good in certain situations, I think, and he can still throw. It's not like he's just a running guy. So you put him in there, and you could fool some teams in situational football where you put him in there and it looks like you're putting him in there to run, and then he throws the ball down the field. So I'll be excited to see how they use him.
I think you're thinking as if Gus was still the head coach. I don't think Harsin will do that. I don't mean that as a knock against Gus. I think there is a place for that to be successful in the game of football, but especially college football. I think there is a way that you can put in a mobile quarterback to have a package to throw defenses off. I think there is a role for it. I don't think Brian Harsin will do it.
Yeah, I hate saying I have inside intel.
Ooh.
But that is just based on conversations that I've had with current players and people around the program. It seems like there's going to be a package for Robbie Ashford no matter what happens this season. So I expect to see him on the field at some point. They may try him early in these first 5 games to see what he can do. But regardless of whether it's Finley or Calzada, I think you see Robbie Ashford at some point in the first 5 games.
All right. My second reason to be potentially concerned about this upcoming season is there's a chance, Mike G, that the offensive line doesn't get better, that they don't take that step forward like we're kind of expecting them to. Because, look, we said this this time a year ago. There was a lot of returning starters last season, and they got a little bit better in pass blocking, but run blocking left a lot to be desired. We're having the same conversation again. A lot of these dudes coming back. Does that mean they will be better? Because it didn't necessarily mean that last season.
Right. Yeah, listen, offensive line is always going to be a concern. You can't block. If you can't run block, you can't pass block, you can't run offense, which leads me to my number 2, which is run blocking. So we're kind of in lockstep there. Like
yours is specifically run block. I guess
run blocking.
I guess mine is too, because I just admitted that the pass blocking was fine. So we're in tandem here.
Yeah, there was a misconception about pass blocking last season, and for a lot of reasons I don't want to get into. But ultimately, that unit pass blocked at an acceptable level in the SEC. They were the 4th best pass blocking team in our league by the numbers. And some of the teams that finished at the top of the league were some of the worst at pass blocking. So what we need to do is we need to deliver a marginally better performance in pass blocking, but we need a substantially better performance in run blocking.
Right.
Or it's going to get tough. It's going to make pass blocking tough, because when teams do not respect the run game, they tee off and they come after your quarterback. So you got to keep defenses honest. Run blocking is going to be a big part of that. If you can play smash mouth football up front, create holes for Tank and Jarquez Hunter and maybe even Damari Alston, and they have to respect it. It should help the O-line quite a bit, but it's going to start with run blocking. I just think they weren't good at it last year. It was below average, and Tank's numbers suffered because of it.
Yeah, and also I want to see them really find ways to be, I guess, an extension of the running game. And we've seen them throw it to Tank more across spring, and then there's been social media posts of Tank catching some balls and things like that. I think he's going to be more involved with that as well. And so that'll definitely help the offensive line a ton. All right. My next point is about the quarterbacks, but I worded it a little bit different than what Mike G did. And I'll tell you why in just a moment, but I got to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. Had a Built Bar this morning for breakfast right before I went to the gym. And it's delicious. It's so I'm going to say it because it sounds a little weird when I say it, but it's true. It's fun to eat. I said it because I know how delicious Built Bars are and also how good they are for me. It almost feels like I'm doing something wrong, but I'm really not. So head over to built.com and you'll see all of the macros there. They've got a bunch of different macro charts for whatever kind of product you want to buy, but most of them are around 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 carbs, 17 grams of protein. It's crazy. Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off. That is at built.com. Mike G of the War Rapport. If people are not checking out the War Rapport, what are they missing out on?
You're missing out on a lot of great interviews that we have going. So Thursday, our Derrick Brown interview goes live. So Derrick Brown, former defensive tackle, number 7 overall pick in the NFL draft in 2020, came on and sat down and talked with us about life after Auburn, life at Auburn, and gave his perspective on NIL as it stands for athletes today. So I appreciate him for sitting down to talk to us. But we got even more interviews coming. This is the time, right, where people have time to sit down and talk with us. So we're trying to give you guys that off-season content. Subscribe on YouTube. We're bringing you tons of it.
Awesome. All right. My number 3 reason to be concerned about this upcoming season is that no quarterback steps up before fall camp, because I think it's going to be really interesting. We talked about this in the spring. If there's 3 dudes still splitting the first team reps for the first 2 weeks of fall camp, I think that's bad. I think it's good for the competition, but at that point, you really, really need to start building up some quality reps and some chemistry, especially for Calzada, depending on how much time he missed, with the rest of the starting offense. So I think the timing is very, very important.
Yeah, to win the job in the summer, you have to put in a lot of work on your own.
Yep.
The guys are out there, and a little T on how it works at Auburn is that while coaches are not allowed to be out there coaching, they know, assistants know, administrative staff know when you come into the facility to put in work. They chart all that. They keep track of the guys who are in there catching balls off the machine, throwing passes in the indoor facility. They know who's working and who's not. So for a guy to step up during the summer, it starts there. It starts with the work that you're putting in, going to grab receivers, going to throw, get on the same page with them. And then when fall camp starts, somebody's got to separate quickly. So going into fall camp, a couple practices in, you got to know who your quarterback is, I think, because you got to start putting in installs for game 1. And it's going to, whoever is quarterback may affect what you install. So, yeah, it is concerning, but I think we're in a good spot. I think we have a deeply talented quarterback room. They all bring something unique to it. And as long as the coaches can make that decisive decision about who the starter is, I think Auburn would be all right to start the season.
All right, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is play calling.
Oh, interesting.
I want to see what
you see. Play calling as a concern.
I think it was a concern last year, and I think that's not in question. There were some questionable play calls at critical times on 4th downs, critical 3rd downs. We should have run it here. We should have passed it here. We should have gone for 2 in the Iron Bowl. Play calling. And I think that our head coach, is taking over play calling. So that doesn't make it more of a concern. It just makes it a point of interest. But I think anybody would be fooling themselves to say that play calling isn't a concern based on what we saw last season. So you fired your offensive coordinator. You promoted a guy that's been on your squad. And now everyone's anxious about what that's going to look like. A lot of people felt like we didn't give Tank the ball enough. We threw too much in certain situations. We know that Brian Harsin wants to be a balanced offense, right, but you have to also play to your strengths. So play calling, it's the script, man, that tells the story. That's how the story gets played out. And I'll be interested to see how they do. So I've got my eyes on play calling. Okay,
I think that's a good one. My number 4 on this list of reasons to be concerned about the upcoming season is I think we need to be concerned that there's a real chance that we don't use Landon King enough. You know how much I love Landon King and his upside. That is a hill that I am going to die on. Okay. And I think just a combination of size and athleticism and his ability to high point the football, I think is extremely valuable. And I think you can move him around formationally, and I think you can do different things with him. And I just think he needs to be a really, really big piece of this offense.
Yeah, I agree. My number 4 kind of goes in line with that, and it's downfield passing.
Sure, right.
The deep ball, man. How are we going to push the ball beyond 15 yards down the field? Landon King may actually play a role in that. So we've got to find a way to pass more effectively down the field so that defenses have to respect it. And that's going to make, some room for our running game. But when linebackers cannot play downhill, just not respecting our passing game at all. So Landon King comes in, like you said, and starts making defenses think about guarding him. It should help the offense as a whole. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I've got my eyes on Landon King and that passing game, that downfield passing game. They moved him from tight end to wide receiver.
Right.
I expect him to be catching some routes over the middle, but it all works together, Zach. If Landon King is catching passes over the middle, if he's dangerous from 0 to 15 yards, it makes room for those guys downfield. Right.
And also, I mean, going back to the play calling, like if Harson's calling the plays, we assume he's going to try to achieve more balance, assuming the flow of the game allows him to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And I think an attempt of him doing that will involve formations where you see more tight ends on the field. And I think if Landon King becomes a threat in the passing game, just having him on the field, whether he's attached to the line of scrimmage or at slot or even out wide, I think it makes defenses treat you differently.
Yeah.
Because if he's a threat and he does what I think he's capable of, I don't think you can put a corner on him. And so do you put a linebacker? Do you move a safety over there? Do you move your nickel over there? I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how opposing defenses choose to cover him.
Yeah, he could be a matchup nightmare.
Totally.
He could be a matchup nightmare. So hopefully we use him as such.
All right, my fifth reason coming up has to do with inexperience at a certain position. It may not be the position that you think it is. Today's show is brought to you by rockauto.com. Rock Auto is the place to save money and time when searching for auto parts for your car, truck, or SUV. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts that a chain storefront is just going to order or a dealership? rockauto.com has you taken care of. And look, they're a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. And Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car, truck, or SUV. And write Locked On Auburn in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need. That is at rockauto.com. All right, we both got one more item on our list. My fifth reason to be concerned about the upcoming season for the Auburn Tigers, Mike G, is experience at the linebacker position. And I feel this way really because of Owen Pappo and just, is he going to be fully healthy in his return? I mean, that injury's really kept him out for a long time. And I understand they're being, cautious, and that they can be because Owen's experienced as he is. But Cam Riley's not. And I think Cam Riley's going to be a really, really good player, but it's not a given. Like, he has to go out and earn it. And I think he has a chance to do that. But after that, I think it's interesting. Wesley Steiner is a guy that I think we would have seen more of at this point of his career. Like, when he committed, a lot of folks were really, really excited about his athleticism, and we just haven't really seen him. There's been a logjam at the top. I mean, Auburn's been deep at the linebacker spot for years, and so it's tougher to get playing time there than it used to be. And then, Eugene Asante transferring in. Is that a fit? Is he going to see the field? So I do think there's questions about the linebacker room. I think they're going to be solid, and I think they're going to get help with their defensive front in front of them. But still, I think it is a question. Yeah,
I agree. I like that we got Eku Leota back. I think that was that's going to be big. Ultimately, a lot of tackles left with Zacoby McClain. A lot. So you got to fill all those tackles. And, it took us 8 of these between the two of us before we got to a defensive concern. Right. So I agree with you. I think anytime you lose as much experience in one player as you did in Zacoby, and we saw he changed the complexion of that defense. Like, we couldn't stop Georgia State in the first half, and Zacoby came back, and then all of a sudden they couldn't do anything. So He was definitely an impact player. For me, my last one is just going to be pass defense. At times, teams carved us up through the air. And, there are reasons for that. Lack of a pass rush, just letting quarterbacks kind of sit back there. But we struggled in pass defense at times last year. Even with a lockdown corner, we had holes elsewhere on the field. It just seemed like at times, quarterbacks like Will Rogers and, Bryce Young in critical moments carved up our secondary. near the end of the game. So I want to see what kind of adjustments we make there. We got the number one JUCO and the number one JUCO safety and the number one JUCO corner to come in to help bolster that room. Nehemiah Pritchett, I expect to see him, take some steps here. Word on the street is he's the fastest guy on the team.
Pritchett
is the fastest guy on the team. Multiple players have told us Pritchett is got burners. So
I love that.
We've got speed. We've got experience back there. Like there's a lot to fill with Roger McCrory leaving. But ultimately, I saw a tweet that said that Roger, like coming out of high school, he was like ranked 800th in the country or something.
Right.
And he was the first pick in the second round, or he was the 35th pick overall.
Yeah, he was early. Right.
Yeah, and I just think, is there another guy that can step in and fill that role and help Auburn play better defense down the backstretch of games?
Yeah. So. And to me, it's Jalen Simpson. I think he's going to be really, really special this season. I think he's going to be a top 3 round draft pick next year. Just because I think he's going to test really well, and I think he's going to do enough, both outside and in the middle of the field. I think he's pretty versatile. And so, Jalen Simpson's my guy. I think you can certainly make an argument for Pritchett. I think you can make an argument for Keontae Scott. I think his timing and when he's going to come on campus is going to hinder him a little bit. But he's got all the upside in the world too. And so, Osbury down the road, not this year, but I think that's another name to look at. I think Auburn's going to be good at the cornerback position for a while. Then, of course, DJ James, the transfer from Oregon. So Auburn's going to be fine at corner. I think it's just kind of figuring out who meshes with the scheme the best and the quickest.
Yeah. Jay Fair told us that DJ James is also in that group of fastest guys on the team.
Okay.
As well. So
it's not really his play style. So that's interesting.
Yeah. They have burners. I have multiple people tell me how fast DJ James is, and I'm excited to see it. When you've got that much speed at your disposal, especially in the defensive backfield, it gives you some flexibility in what you can do if receivers can't get behind your corners and your safeties, and having guys who can make up ground when they're beat and knock balls down is going to be super important. And the pass defense should help bolster a defense that I think has a chance to be really good this year. If we can add a pass rush to what we already have, some of the struggles in pass defense were about lack of a pass rush, leaving our corners on an island. So if I had a 5B, it would be pass rush. But
I get that.
We'll see.
I get that. I think the pieces are in place for a pass rush, though, right? I think you mentioned Eku Leota, who's an absolute unit. Him coming back, and then obviously Derrick Hall returning and Colby Wooden. So I think Auburn should be good there. Marcus Harris as well. So, but yeah, hey, for those watching or listening, what are you most concerned about with this upcoming season? Let us know. Either comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on audio, you can tweet at us or let us know in the Discord. I'm sure people will be talking about it in Locked On Auburn Discord. We'll put that link in the episode description down below. Mike G, how can people find you and watch you and support you guys?
Hey, listen, just search the War Report on any social media platform. We're there. Go to YouTube, type in War Report, hit that subscribe button. We got tons of content coming for you guys over the next few weeks, so stay tuned.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out our friends at Locked On SEC, Chris Gordy, doing a great job over there. We'll be back tomorrow right here on Locked On Auburn. See ya.